An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing for every tatter in its mortal dress. The monsoons have gone, and the air is clear, the sky is blue. My neem trees stand refreshed and still in the cool air. I remember them well when I planted them as saplings 22 years ago. They've grown tall and beautiful, two trees entwined like lovers, and still lovers, enduring the seasons. Unlike my loves, which came and went, my poetry remained, my heart remained, and I've remained. This is the autumn of my life, a time of journeying inwards. In 1998, I found this in a dry riverbed in Kutch. That's the day we had gone to the shrine of Momai Mata. She is associated with the Rabaris, and so you have, whenever you see a little statue of Momai Mata, you see her sitting on a camel, and it's near her shrine is the naming ceremonies of Rabari tribesmen's children. So we went there thinking there was going to be a Momai Mata festival or fair or some occasion, but it was the wrong day, and well, we felt a little despondent and started walking down the hill till we reached the bottom, and at the bottom, a little way, about 100 yards away, was a dry riverbed. And while we were walking along, in fact, while we were walking along, it was like, it was surreal. The landscape, the stones, the rocks, the colors, the shapes. It didn't seem as if I was walking on earth. It seemed as if I was walking in the land of dreams. Each stone was so special, each rock was so different one from the other. that I was not just amazed, I was speechless. Usually I'm a very talkative fellow, but I was speechless. And then suddenly something caught my eye. This caught my eye. I knew this is, and I can feel this is a statue of some kind, as it has a base, as it has a form. It must have been, I don't know of which deity, but over the years, sediment has collected over it and covered it, protected it. And I keep it here on my desk to remind me that what protects the soul, my soul, are memories. Memories of people, of places, memories of relationships, memories of feelings, memories of journeys. And this has made up my life. In the autumn of my life, memories become like old friends to keep me company. Nothing with regret, nothing with sadness of any kind, nothing with any emotion. They're just like good friends who don't interfere with your mind, who let your mind be free and express itself. Good friends who don't meddle with the mind. Good friends who listen and keep you company. That day, in 1998, I think it was, 99, I felt as if I was alive with some type of magic. Because suddenly, when I looked at this, suddenly, all my life, that's quite a long time ago, but all my life suddenly was thrown into perspective. And I became much more aware of everything I was experiencing, because I realized that they would become, what would I say, they would become jewels in my treasure chest of memories. They would become my garments that I would wear as I got on in years. That they would become a very part of my being, of who I am. You don't shed memories. That's what I've learned. One wears them, accepts them, blesses them. Just let them be. One doesn't need to fight with memories. I tried to fight in the beginning, but then I stopped fighting with memories. I accepted memories. In some cases, when it was relationships or people or situations, I'd forgiven them and let them go. Because I know I'm on a long journey, a very long journey. I wrote something in my book of poems, Memory Land. No stranger here, I know I've been before, and carry deep inside the atlas of the memory land, stretched on my rack of dreams. There is in time, I'm learning as I get older, there is in time a growing space inside one. It's something that comes from inside, a growing space that keeps pushing the outside and the outer world away and away and away and away, till maybe, hopefully, everything is pushed away. And what emerges is, as Yeats said, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing for every tatter in its mortal dress. So the mortal dress, the tatters and all falls away, and you have pure song.
Tell me, sister wind, where does this road end? All day I have walked with friends, strangers, lovers, my shadow, in the company of ravens and magpies, lofting swift water voices, the past like a swarm of bees hiving my heart. Tell me, sister wind, where does this road end? All night I have walked with wolves, dreams, moon shadow, in the company of my many selves, broken promises, snow song. Tell me, sister wind, where does this road end? Over the edge of the last mountain, floating through ice-knife air, crashing on snow rocks, scattering, each particle sinking to rest somewhere below, finally liberated from the long journey, the hoping, the loving, the waiting, the dreaming, the remembering. Does the road wander into towns, villages, cities, fields, over journeying rivers, in and out of dark tunnels shot through mountainsides, bleeding visions of endless roads and wolves and broken promises and beehived hearts and caravans of emptiness, until one day I am walking again in the company of strangers, lovers, ravens, magpies, and my many selves. Am I dreaming the road?
My books have always been a source of inspiration for me. They have been with me over the years, and almost every book I own here has been first thought with a lot of introspection. Should I buy the book or not buy the book? Sometimes I've just picked them up, like Henry David Thoreau's Walden. It's a celebration of living with nature, a celebration of solitude. And here he has something to say about books. No wonder that Alexander carried the Iliad with him on his expeditions in a precious casket. A written word is the choicest of relics. It is something at once more intimate with us and more universal than any work of art. It is the work of art nearest to life itself. It may be translated into every language, and not only be read, but actually breathed from all human lips, not to be represented or in marble only, but be carved out of the breath of life itself. The symbol of an ancient man's thought becomes a modern man's speech. 2000 summers have imparted to the monuments of the Grecian literature, as to her marbles, only a maturer, golden, and autumnal tint. For they have carried their own serene and celestial atmosphere into all lands to protect them against the corrosion of time. So, Thoreau celebrates the book and thoughts that go into the book, and he says they just go on. Is that the reason why I write? Is that the reason why I publish my books or allow my books to be published? Well, I don't have the answer. But all I know is that I keep gathering these books around me, all these books in this room and in the other rooms, because I feel their energies nurture me. I feel that they give me the sense of time. They give me the mellowness of age. And in the years of life that I am in now, they give me great solace. There's this book, a book of Celtic wisdom, and it's by John O'Donoghue. I'm sure the Irish and the ancient Celts would pronounce O'Donoghue differently, but that's the way I pronounce him. He has this book called Anamkara, a book of Celtic wisdom. And it sort of gives me a tremendous sense of the timelessness of thinking and of living. He said, light is generous. If you've ever had occasion to be out early in the morning before the dawn breaks, you will notice that the darkest time of night is immediately before dawn. The darkness deepens, becomes more anonymous. If you had never been to the world and never known what a day was, you wouldn't possibly imagine how the darkness breaks, how the mystery of color of a new day arrives. Light is incredibly generous, but also gentle. This book has made me aware of the subtleties of my sensory experiences. Because I think I, through the years, had been rushing through life, either going from bed to bed, or from book to book, or from event to event. And I didn't have time to notice that light of day that breaks after the darkest hour. But I feel now, in the autumn of my life, I can see and feel the value of that hour. To be honest, the darkest phase of my life is over. I won't go into the details, it's over. The darkest phase of my life is over. And the light has broken, and the gray sky has turned with clouds, has turned a beautiful blue. And light dances everywhere in my life. In the autumn of my life, I've discovered spring. I've discovered summer. I've discovered winter. I've discovered so much more, because I'm alive, alert, and aware of the immeasurable, beautiful sensations of autumn, more than in any other season. Of course, here in India, we don't call autumn autumn, but for us, it's the time and the season after the monsoons. There's a quietness in the air, a residual greenness, a stillness. They say that the Buddha attained enlightenment. I don't know whether it's true or not, but he attained enlightenment in December. So while I was reading this book which I hadn't touched for some time, Walden, I discovered something very special. This is a leaf which has fallen from the Bodhi tree, the descendant of the original Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. And I was sitting under the tree and just being quiet, being silent, being myself, with my spirit open and receptive to the world. And this leaf fell on my lap. I've cherished it over the years, but then I carefully placed it in one of my favorite books. And since my memory is failing me, I forgot which book. Just now, when I opened Walden, I found the leaf of enlightenment, of realization, the leaf of stillness, the leaf of quietness, the leaf of peace. It says a lot for me, and it says a lot to me. So these books that are here, each of them carry within their pages a pressed flower, a feather, a leaf, and each of them have a story. In the autumn of my life, these objects tell me about the life I've led and give me a form of solace. I must remember where I keep this book and I don't have to search for it the next time. The second most important presence in this apartment is, first of course, as I told you, are my books. Other things I've collected over the years. Not memorabilia, not some fine works of art, but small, almost insignificant things in other people's eyes, which actually are very important to me in my eyes and in my heart, that remind me of my life and what was precious in my life. For example, the stone. The stone is from the Tos River in Dehradun. And I picked it up from the bed of the river, a very shallow part of the river. From the bed of the river, one afternoon where I was bathing with my children, my son and my daughter, when they were very little. And that was for us stolen time. That was for us very precious time. And we had a great time in the river, bathing. And I picked up a number of stones, but this one, for some reason, has stayed with me. You know, the thing about stones, when you find them and you pick them up, I picked a lot up in Kalanadi, but they pick you up. You don't pick a stone up. I relate to the spirit of stones. So if I'm walking in the wilderness somewhere or semi-wilderness somewhere, and a stone catches my eye, that stone catches my eye. I don't see the stone. And I pick it up. So this is one such stone from the Tos River in Dehradun. And when I look at the stone, it reminds me of my children who are grown up now. It reminds me when they were young and happy. Of course, they're happy now still. But there was a certain phase in their life where it was a sort of a couldn't care less phase. And we shared very happy times together. When they would visit Pune, my kids, on holiday, as I was divorced from my wife, from their mum, and they were living in Delhi, but they would come for their holidays to Pune. And I lived in a little studio apartment in the same apartment complex. And in summer, particularly the summer holidays when they'd come, they were little. They stripped to their little chaddis and they would be out on the terrace garden, and I would put on the tap, garden tap, and hose them down. And that was the highlight of the holiday. We had great times in Malavali also, nearby hills. So the stone reminds me of so much of my relationship with them. It's very precious. This stone is, my daughter was, I think, 5 or 6 years old, And she picked up a stone from somewhere and she painted a spiral and gave it to me when she was returning to Delhi and said, remember, Ni, whenever you look at the stone, there's lots of energy, love and happiness. This is a little girl saying this in the stone. Because you see these lines, it's coming from out and it's going in, going back to the center and then coming out again. It's so much of energy in it. It also has little sparks and spots on it. It's like her. I had here, I don't know where I kept it. It's probably I've been polishing it in there. It's a compass which my son gave me. I don't know where he picked it up from, and I thought he had chosen it with great care, but it was so big that I was wondering where to put it here. It's like my son. He's not a big guy. He's a slight man, but he's big in his imagination. He's really big in his imagination. A sort of a universal scale he works at as a filmmaker, not in tiny little details which get lost. Yeah, this stone is so important to me. And this stone, if you look at it carefully, you'll realize that this has been shaped. And this is a stone which is from prehistoric times, which was used for breaking or cutting, but it's all become blunt now. It's a perfect shape. Can you see? It's a perfect shape. And I found this in a place just by accident. I was standing somewhere and I turned and I looked, and there it was in the dust, and only this part of the stone was sticking out. And I said, well, strange. And I dug out the stone with my penknife. I cleaned it, but I didn't polish the stone. It would have changed its energy. So most definitely this is a prehistoric implement. I haven't gone to the archaeologists and to ask them, what is this? Can you identify it? In my mind, my imagination, this is what it is. And this is what it will remain to be. Interesting, I think of Amtala. Amtala is a place on the border of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. And you go through Amtala to go towards Gujarat, towards Baroda. And I used to go that way often. It's very, very beautiful, very quiet. It's a narrow road, dusty road. And one summer I was, driving through there, the jeep. And I was going to the shrine of one of the local Devis to pay my respects. And the shrine was on top of a hill. So to get there, you had to pass through Amtala. And it was very hot. So I stopped and I was looking for water. And there was a small spring of water there. So I went to take a little bit of the water and splash it on my face. And then I saw a most interesting sight. Inside the trunk of a tree, there was a hollow. And several birds of different species flew out of that hollow and flew away. And I wondered, like, what's happening? I mean, there was a scarlet minaret, there was a tree pie, and there were muniyas, and they were all coming out of this place as if it was some sort of a rest house or guest house or dhaba or something. So I said, let me look. So I went very quietly, I went and I peeped in. And I was met by a flurry of wings and feathers. And some 100, 200 small birds flew out from there, of different varieties. So it was, in there was a hunting party. That's what they say, the ornithologists say, where there are certain times of the day where birds of different species end up feeding together. So what were they eating inside the trunk of that tree? I peered in and I was carrying a small little torch. I put it on. And inside the tree it was rotting. And there were a lot of maggots and worms and all there and insects. And the birds were having a gala time, feasting off these insects and these maggots and what have you. And I shone the torch in further, I went in further, there was quite a lot of space, went in further, and I found 3 birds still sitting and eating and not caring a thing about me. So I told them, oops, I'm sorry for disturbing your meal, and I backed out. This was quite an experience. So 2-3 years later, when I went that way, I remember the tree trunk. I remember the hollow of the tree trunk. So I went in, and sure enough, I was greeted by a hunting party of birds. But they were slightly different, the birds that were coming there. And I guess that's what happens as time changes and vegetation changes and the environment changes a bit. The birds lose their direction and they turn up in places they had never been. That's what happens with migratory birds. But these weren't migratory birds, these were local residents. Anyway, so I wished them farewell. And the driver of the jeep thought I was a little mad because I was saying bye-bye and namaste to the birds, and they went off. I got into the jeep and went away. Yes, I remember now. The name of that Devi who I went to visit and to pay my respects to was Dungar Mata. A Dungar is a hill, and her shrine was on top of the hill. And it was interesting, it was between 2 rocks, and the 2 rocks went this way, and to get inside, the shrine was inside there. So you had to squeeze your body and you had to enter the inside where diyas were burning. And in there, between these 2 rocks, were the beautiful statues of these local devis. And when you came out, you had to back out. You'd find a large stone with 2 kind of dips in them, covered the stains of blood. So that's where fowls and goats were sacrificed. And they are sacrificed, I believe, even till this day. It must have been a very old practice. So Dungar Mata was or Dungar Devi was very powerful in that places. Anyway, so I found this little ahead over there, this particular stone. So I keep it here to remind me of the power of the forest, the power of local deities, and most importantly, the colorful hunting party of birds in that magical hollow of the tree trunk. So as you see, this apartment is full of small things I picked up everywhere. Some from nearby, some from far away, because they connected with me. So I'll correct myself. I didn't pick them up. They picked me up.
Inside me are drifting continents, nameless countries, people, languages, mutating every moment.
This is the autumn of my life, when fruits ripen and the sun has a warm glow, and my past greets me like an old friend. Just yesterday, I harvested the first lemon of the season from my little patch. And for me, it reminds me of the fruitfulness of my life, that nothing has gone to waste, that everything has had a place, a meaning, a sense of belonging, a connectedness, a rootness. This is the autumn of my life.
It was the morning of my life, watery with wonder. Bird wings feathering light, churning joy songs, and the dark, sacred as sepulchres, rested its cheek on my belly. I slept. Today, treading the money walk, I am born again. Watering sparrows fill the afternoon with the fragrance of wet feathers, tingling with birth songs. Between two joys, the struggle of becoming. Between two births, the cycle of dying. Between two dawns, dancing darkness. Between two forevers, the eternal now.